Well, welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show, guys. I have a lot to get through in this one. It's a mishmash of everything. The first section, fast moving, and then an interview about tips with sea fishing boats. Let's crack on. Oh yeah, might want to put your earplugs in. So from my poor old yellow boat, I come down to see Dean on the Russell Powerboats, and trust me, he does know a bit about power on boats. So you guys out there fishing boats, you think you got a fast fishing boat? Let's talk to a man who knows about speed. So good to see you, Dean.
Yeah, and you.
Appreciate you letting me come up here and have a look around now. With my boat, look, it was a 17-foot Wilson Flyer, got a 60 yam on the back. When I first bought it, I sort of knew only a little bit about boats I rented in Florida and stuff like that. I was constantly told by various different people that changing the prop does actually alter the speed of the boat. Does it make a huge amount of difference or just marginal?
No, it does make a huge amount of difference, because unlike a car, which has obviously got a gearbox where you change gear, your gear is basically the propeller itself. So obviously if you went up a hill, you wouldn't like to select. Now when I'm talking about going up a hill, it's a little bit like putting a lot of weight in your boat.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so what you would need to do is have a finer pitch propeller. Now obviously having a finer pitch propeller is like having like a first or second gear of a car. So obviously it allows you to get over the plane. It allows you to obviously pull heavier weights or have a boat. So obviously if you don't, see, every engine has got its own rev range. Okay, so if you look at the manufacturer, it will tell you what that boat should rev at. Okay, the engine. Okay, now obviously if you put a finer pitch propeller on it and you use it at the maximum all the time, you will over rev the engine. Okay, so it's setting the boat up for the use you're going to use it for. Obviously a outboard engine will come with a standard prop.
That's right,
because the manufacturer doesn't know what you're going to put that on. Okay. They'll put it on a standard prop, obviously, depending on if it's a big V6 or a 15 horsepower. They've got a rough idea of the type of boat you want to put it on. But if you had a narrow boat with like a 15 horsepower, you wouldn't have the same prop size on it than if you had like a small inflatable boat that's got to push a lot less weight. So it has a different use. So with an inflatable, your priority might be getting that top end speed.
Because you're off the water floating a bit anyway,
yes, you are.
You haven't got to dig it out.
No, you haven't, but there's still a lot of weight that can be generated in a boat if you load it up with a lot of people. Okay, it even matters how the, obviously on bigger boats, how the outboard is mounted on the back.
Just as a single, which most of the
as a single, you don't just stick it in the middle. Okay, depending on the horsepower, there's offset, there's height. The reason is, on performance boats and performance propellers, okay, they also run at different heights.
So I'm also told a lot of the time, get yourself, shell out, pay for a stainless prop over an aluminium. Is it worth doing?
Only if you've really got a performance boat. I mean, obviously you'll get more durability, but the problem you've got, if you're in like rocky areas and you've got a stainless steel prop and you hit it,
I gotcha.
it transfers the shock through the rest of the engine, whereas obviously if you had an aluminium propeller,
yes,
the prop, it takes it through the bush and the actual material itself. Obviously you're going to wreck it, but you could do less damage than wrecking a gearbox.
Yes.
Obviously, stainless steel propellers do make a difference, but it's more of a performance application
Gotcha, yeah.
rather than, you know, I'm sure that there are fishing boats with these for durability or the rest of it, but in my opinion, if you're fishing, I'd say an aluminium kind of like, and you need it pitched right. What I mean by that is you've got to start off with the standard prop.
Yes.
And then you've got a gauge if you want more acceleration, more kind of, it'll get you out of a hole, like a first gear, where you're carrying a lot of weight.
To get your planing.
Or you want a higher gear, okay, that gives you more top end.
Oh, I see.
But it will reduce your acceleration. You can't have both.
Yes.
You either have your top end,
I see what you mean, yeah.
or you have your, it's a fixed gear.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically that's how it works. Obviously we do fit a lot of stainless steel propellers, but that is for someone that just wants a sports orientation of it. I mean, obviously there's bass fishing boats in America.
They fly, don't they?
Where they're using huge power and they do use stainless steel props and they do jack them up. It's not something that's known in this country, and it's not something most fishermen ask for, to be honest with you.
So when I spoke to you before, Dean, you talked about very high speed boats. We're going to come to that, proper fast boats, not the old fishing boats at 30 knots like we have, guys. But you were talking about that sort of remapping and everything like that, which I'm going to call it sort of soups up the engine. I mean, can you have a 60 to a 70 for our type of fishing boat?
That is possible with certain manufacturers. What a lot of manufacturers are doing at the moment is making the same engine and getting the extra power out of the programming of obviously the ECU itself.
Yes.
The only issues you can get into is obviously if your craft or your outboard is still under warranty.
I see.
Because obviously by changing the ECU information, you are voiding your warranty.
Yeah, so risky.
It's risky to one point that the manufacturers don't like you doing it.
Yeah.
Usually the upgrade is not a risk, but if you know, it's kind of like they want to slap your wrist for doing things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously you can get into problems if you don't buy the mat off a reputable source, because how have they remapped it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So are there companies that do this?
Yeah, there is companies. They tend to specialise more in like the higher horsepower models.
Yes.
You know, because they make, you know, 300 horsepowers and upwards. That's more performance orientated, so people always want more power. It could be a cheap upgrade. I mean, the problem is that 80%, I'd say, the boat value is almost in the engine all the time.
Yeah, that is a lot.
You know, so the problem is when you try and upgrade your engine, you usually find it cheaper to sell what you've got and upgrade the whole unit, rather than just swapping engines. I mean, you know. That's...
Now it's just of interest, guys. So some of the fishing boat guys, we have a lot of people with, I'm going to say, 16 to 19 footers. They've got say 60 to 90. Some have got 115s on the back, go very fast. Fishing boat. But when I'm talking fast, you guys have no idea how fast things can go on the water, which is what your, I call it, specialist subject stroke business is. So just give the guys some information on some of the stuff you've done over the years.
Yeah, I mean,
with proper boats that do go seriously fast.
So yeah, I mean, where Russell Powerboats has come from is basically putting together like fast sports boats. They were very much like the Phantoms, the Rings. Obviously, it's a small 18 foot. Up to, let's say, 20, but you put a lot of power on it. When I say a lot of power, power with the outboards, like an 18 foot with a 200 horsepower outboard on the back. I mean, that is good for speeds of 72 mile an hour. I mean, obviously, There is a performance range in the in America where they're into the bass boat fishing.
Yes.
It really hasn't, you know, seen the light of day in the UK, obviously.
Yeah.
Where they need a lot of power to get out to a point and fish.
Yes.
And
They've got competitions, haven't they?
yeah, they got competitions out there. So it's a kind of different setup. So you still have a guy that wants a fast boat for fishing in America.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously there are fishing engines, okay, as well, which are, you know, a bit more less prone to corrosion and things like that. So you get the saltwater versions.
Yes.
So they do make versions for particular uses.
Now, talking of those, you see some of the, I'm going to call them mid-range boats, 25s upwards. In places in Florida mostly, and obviously they got the weather for it. They'd be a big giant centre console thing, and they got 4 engines on the back. Now, just to tell us, why would you not have one big lump as opposed to 4 small engines?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it's due to the reliability, as in the fact that, you know, these boats cost a lot of money, and obviously not getting used all the time. And obviously you get someone turn up to use their boat and the engine doesn't work, that puts you completely out of action with your normal, obviously, inboard configuration.
Yep.
What you can do with the outboard is if there's any issues with any of the engines, you can obviously jack them up to get them out of the way.
Yep.
You've got the safety aspect of you're never going to be out there stranded completely,
yes,
because you're going to at least be able to chug back with the other engines.
Yep.
Servicing's a lot easier as well, because other than having to creep in the belly of a boat all the time,
yes,
and not be able to see things.
It's on the outside.
It's on the outside. You can take the obviously the cowling off, and you can get to the
engine
whole thing.
Changes.
Yeah,
And,
so
oil changes.
yeah, so the whole
changes.
maintenance of it. It's quite interesting because, you know, it's only really recently that we've seen these larger boats getting the outboard engines again.
Yes.
It used to, I think they liked the look of an inboard. It was out the way, but the practicality of an outboard kind of like
outweighs all that.
It does, and yeah. I mean, you've got to see what's happening in the boat market. You look at the US market, because obviously they're the biggest manufacturer of that type of boat,
yeah,
and they're all going to outboards now.
Yeah.
For reliability issues and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Now, some you'd be the man to know about this. 2 or 3 other fishing guys I know, they're talking about the change in the E rating of the fuel or something like that. What is that all about? You know, the 2 different grades of petrol you get. What does it do? And they said, oh, it might damage an engine over a long run. What is it actually?
Yeah, I mean, what that is all about is obviously it's a little bit like unleaded and leaded fuel. They have to obviously make the components internally put up with the different chemicals that are going through it. Obviously, the E10 has got more of an alcohol content in it, which can cause problems for like gaskets and diaphragms and anything rubber within the engine.
Really? It degrades it?
It degrades it. Now, yeah, I think you're going to get degradation problems. I mean, I think it's really a case of the alcohol content or the ethanol that is affecting the internals of the engine. So
it's not just a high performance boat effect, because somebody said you're going to have to change your lawnmower, Graeme. So it's not going to break. It's not going to break the seals down in the lawnmower, sure.
Well, yeah, I mean,
does nobody know yet? You know?
No, I think I think it's pretty obvious that the gaskets and the diaphragms with it will be affected by that higher increase. I think they're just trying to move us towards more modern engines, to be honest.
You think so, yeah.
I think that's the general idea is, you know, you have to keep on upgrading the engine to work on the fuels that you got used. And
and do they, with those big quad engines, going back to those, how do they do those propellers? Do they not drive it more in one direction?
I mean, that's an important fact. I mean, there's quite a lot of setup when you put that many engines on there, because obviously you've got counter-rotation propellers. There's a little bit of a discussion, is it best to have them rotating outwards or inwards?
Oh really? So they have to be balanced, those propellers?
Yeah, they have to be balanced, and they have to be, you know, you get left-hand rotation and you get right-hand rotation.
On the same configuration of 4 engines?
Yeah, so you could have, you know, obviously 2 going one way and the other 2 going the other way, but you'd have 2 left-handers and 2 right-handers.
So it's sort of like the rotor on a helicopter, is to try and stop the boat twisting?
Yeah, because if you just had them all set up doing right-hand turns turns, you'd be constantly fighting with
Oh, I
it.
see, yeah, going to drive it one way.
Yeah, I mean, they have got hydraulic steering, so the feedback wouldn't be, but you would definitely notice.
You're trying to get drifted.
You're trying to get, yeah. And it makes a difference when you talked about the props in the fact of how you mount the actual engines on the back.
Oh, I see.
Because different props require the engine to be at different heights to work.
Oh, of course, yes.
You see, because you get semi-surface piercing, and you also get ones that are obviously, you know, your standard prop where the whole thing needs to be under the water.
Now, Dean, I've heard you talking before about when we first had a chat about you do this performance stuff. I came down to have a look at the lakes down here, you know, where you do the testing, and I was basically shocked at the speed one of these things goes down at. So can we go out in your showroom and just talk through what these, people could call them jet skis if they want, they probably would, because it's now a PWC, because they're a whole different animal from what we knew 20 years ago even, isn't it?
Yes, they are, very much so. I mean, you know, the early ones were 2-stroke, they've obviously gone 4-stroke. I mean, some of the latest ones have got superchargers on them.
Really, can we go in?
Let's go through. Yeah.
So Dean, you've got a nice big showroom here, I have to say, with some very expensive looking machines here. So just run us through something. Now these are proper personal watercraft, and I know they fish off them because I've seen some videos on YouTube of people fishing in the tropics and whatever. So they are, what size? They're not far for a small boat, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, there's very different models of, obviously, personal watercraft. You've got these ones that they brought out around about 2014 called the Sea-Doo Spark. Now they're very much a different way of developing a ski compared to the larger ones that you see over here.
Yeah.
The idea behind these is obviously to make something light and manoeuvrable. I almost describe this as like the motocross bike of the personal watercraft world, in the fact it's light, you can throw it around, it's great fun, you can still pull skiers off of it, but it does lack obviously in the overall size of the actual craft. So as I explained to people, it's a little bit like, again, the motorboat scenario, where I class these as your, as I said, motocross bikes, whereas I class them more as like your sport cruiser, like a Honda Goldwing.
Now, what sort of distance would you get with these? You know, with your fuel capacity and engine size. Tell them all the stuff like that.
Believe it or not, this is about the only one where they release figures where I think it's about 9 litres an hour. Now, these are particularly good on fuel. Because they're running a 900cc, where the bigger craft can run a 1630 with a supercharger on it. So these are like your lightweight fun machines that are great in enclosed waters, or even down the coast if it's not too rough.
Inshore, I'm going to call it.
It's a little bit inshore. I mean, you can go distances, but when it roughs up, you do feel a bit vulnerable on a craft of this size.
So you go to the one, what?
You go up to the larger craft that you see here. Now, the first one here that I've got, which is a great second-hand example, is the GTI 3-seater. Which is basically...
3-seater?
Yes,
wow,
it's a family craft. So basically, the idea is you've got the room on it. This is a larger craft. Obviously, it's fiberglass now, rather than obviously the plastic of that, of the Sea-Doo Spark.
Yes.
So you've got a proper fiberglass. You've now got a 1500cc in it, and you've got storage space on the bigger models. So you've got areas like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dry storage, I guess.
You've got a dry storage area. So basically, that is your 3-seater, and then
they come on, you know, with various trailers. But most of them look like they're all sort of roller trailers. You've got bunk ones over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. Sometimes people want the bunk. Some people want, obviously, the cushion bunks because they feel that it supports the craft better.
Yes, got it.
So that, again, as I said, that's the GTI 130, whereas this is its bigger brother, which is the GTX 230.
And this is. What size, lengthwise, would this one be?
Oh, I think it's around about 11, 12 foot. It's a little bit bigger than the GTI.
Yes.
Okay, it's still classed as a 3-seater with a bit more luxury.
But there's so much space here, I'm amazed.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of space.
You can stand up there, can't you?
It's a very stable craft. I mean, the latest features on the latest ones, they've even got an audio system on there.
You can talk to the wife on the back seat.
Yeah, that's right. So No, yes, so on this craft, as I said, that's the GTX. And then what you've also got is the two-seater RXP. Now this is really what is seen as the top of the range of the personal watercraft market. It's a 300 horsepower, it's a 1630 with a supercharger. It will do speeds of around about 72 mile an hour, wow, which is very quick on water. It does 0 to 50 in about 3 seconds. So that is your performance machine. Obviously we've got it in both colours, the yellow and the purple that they made there.
Now you can remap these ones?
Yes, you can. I mean, basically what Sea-Doo have done is a lot of the engines, well, like the 130, is the same engine as the 170, just with a remap. So it usually gives you about 10% more with a remap. On the 130-22 models, you actually get 70 horsepower, so that's actually a big increase.
Big jump. Now that remapping, just so Joe average might not understand, like me years ago, not they did it, but it'd be, you take it to the engineering workshop, they'd rebore it, you'd have new piston rings, enlarge it, generally make the engine bigger.
Yes.
But by talking about this remapping, you're saying it's done via a laptop computer plugged into, I assume, the engine management system. Is that how it works?
It is. I mean, basically, you know, the craft will come with the information to run it in its brain, in its ECU.
Yes.
Now, what a lot of manufacturers are doing to cut down on costs of an engine is it's the same engine, but with a different ECU, changing the actual horsepower rating of it.
And it can do that.
And it can do that because it's all about peaks and the curve of obviously of the mapping that you're giving the machine. Now, what I mean is when you say you attach a computer, really these are something that experts do. Yeah. And you purchase the upgrade from them and download it to it. But in all honesty, it's more of a dealer service because he's going to have to have invested quite a lot of money in the tools. To actually make that happen.
So it's a specialist company that does it for you, and that's the way to go.
Company to go. Yeah, as I explained before, obviously it can affect your warranty if it's a brand new, obviously outboard or personal watercraft. So do be aware of that before obviously you go ahead with it. But if you've got an engine and you're looking at increasing the horsepower, it can be the route to go for certain engines.
Gotcha, yeah.
You know, it depends on the age of it and it depends on the model and it depends on the manufacturer of if that is an upgrade that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed how big they are.
Yeah.
You know, I imagine even here at the back, you can sort of stand there, you can stand anywhere along here. It's got these big scoop
Yeah, I mean, they've made
areas,
it more you know, stable. I'll be honest with you, we had customers asking almost for like a rescue craft that's even more stable. And on this one, because we actually designed it, you can get 5 people sat on the side of this.
And this is inflatable here?
This is inflatable. It's like a jet rib, to be honest with you. Sea-Doo themselves did bring something out 2 years later. And it's mainly aimed at kind of like the river rescue and people.
Yeah, I'm going to say, because there's people, if you were pulling somebody over the side here, you're going to have 2 guys there. Very stable. You're going to have a lot of trouble trying to sink that inflatable section.
It's pretty unsinkable with the way that's made up, and it doesn't affect the top end speed either. But that's you know, a design project that we had going. And then we got on to something that's a little bit more, I suppose, to your liking.
Yeah, that's it. It's got 2 rods in the back.
Yeah, it's got 2 rods in the back, so it's on a winner already. But,
and a cutting board.
Yeah, it's the cutting board, so it's a 51 litre. I mean, this is the Fish Pro Scout. Now, the Fish Pro is based on the 130 model, the GTI. Yeah. But they put features on it to appeal to the fishing market. Now, what I mean by that is you've got extras like, obviously, IDF. Now, IDF, what that does, it actually puts the craft into reverse so that if you're in weedy areas when you're fishing, it spits the weed up.
Oh, I see.
Well, physically having to get underneath there and pull it out.
So this, so people know they work on an impeller jet system?
Yeah, this is like, it's an impeller. So rather than an exposed prop underneath, you've got like a tunnel where obviously it gets dragged into. So then obviously it spits the water out the back. So you've got the IDF feature,
yeah.
You've got the Garmin fish finder.
And this all comes as part of the package?
Yeah, if
I
you
see
order...
you can adapt it or customise it pretty much yourself, can't you?
You can. I mean, you can buy these extra parts and put them on the 130, but if that was something you was going to do, you'd be better off buying it as the complete option, as the Fish Pro model, because that would be a more expensive way of doing it about. But you've got the cup holders, you've got, as I said, the rod holders.
Cool box at the back. Or tackle. Yeah. For me, I'd want to put tackle in there, to be honest, to keep the tackle dry.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, they also make a Fish Pro trophy, which is based more on the GTX. It's a slightly longer machine.
Yeah.
And in fact, they even do a pipe where it aerates the tank in the back.
Oh, really?
To keep the fish alive.
So you can have a live or a live bait well.
Yeah, you can have a live bait.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, and hopefully people find that talk you gave of interest, because I mean at the end of the day we do get a following of people with big boats, small boats, you know, some of them are maybe even charter boats, but there's more. Nobody can dispute that this type of craft is getting more and more popular, isn't it, nowadays? I think, you know, I see them out when I'm fishing, and now they can get a model you can actually fish from, and when you go and you see one, the actual size of it and stability. I'm not saying you want to go out in the middle of January, you know, fishing off the Isle of Wight for cod.
No,
but it's a summer, it's a spring, summer, autumn type fishing thing, and or fresh water.
Yeah, I think what a ski offers over a boat is the lack of hassle. You know, and it's like what we've seen the change in general. You don't need a four-wheel drive to get this out of the water.
So what weight are we talking about here for the rig?
About 400 kilos.
Yes, yeah.
You see, so you don't need a four-wheel drive to get it in and out of the water.
Smaller trailer.
It's a smaller trailer. You don't need to put it in your front garden and take over the whole front garden with it.
Yeah, yeah.
When you get up on a day and it's only you off, you can go down the coast, so you're independent with this.
Yeah, launch on your own, yeah.
You can launch it on your own, and when you're finished at the end of the day, you only have to spend another half an hour washing it all down, rather than the whole thing with a boat.
Do they come with seal bearings?
Yeah, the trailers come with a seal bearing.
So really minimal maintenance, because my one is a right pain. It takes it takes me an hour and a half to decommission at the end of the trip the next day. You know, a re-grease of bearings, blah, blah, blah. I know I could get seal bearings for mine, but I haven't. You got to wash everything down because the salt gets everywhere. But, you know, this one hopefully is much easier to maintain, is what you're thinking.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's just the whole ease of use. I mean, a lot of people, they don't get enough time. They don't want to be mucking about with the whole, you know, what's involved in boat ownership.
Yes.
And this gets them out on the water.
And of course, getting out on the water is one thing, but look, with the wiring on this trailer, I found interesting from the running board at the back. The cable comes along absolutely clipped up there, so it's nice and neatly clipped all the way along. But further back is a secondary sort of what I call join. If I run out to the front here, you'll see there's your trailer socket, you know, for going into your car. But the secondary plug is down on the wheel arch, which I found interesting. So there you can see the shape of the hull of this particular model that they got there. And I'll just let the music play out and you can get an idea yourself. Well, that was interesting talk. There might be some boaty tips there that you guys didn't know about. I particularly like the bit Dee mentioned about think of the propeller as a gearbox. So you've got almost a fixed wheel in power. You want the top end speed or do you want fast acceleration? I didn't sort of think of it in that vein myself, but all interesting stuff. Now, being out with Mike, yes, in a boat, fishing away, and unfortunately the fish went right through this old net. It's ripped to shreds, it's been tied, it's probably, might be getting on for 40 years old. I can't tell you how many fish I've had in it, but I think it really has. There's 20 knots tied in there, bits of fishing line. So, popped over to Grant at Grant's Tackle Up. I bought myself a new net. I'm just going to undo the bolts. You guys keep your fingers crossed for me. Am I actually going to get it onto that frame? Well, that's the net sorted out. Now, because I had some good action with Mike out in the boat, I've been having really good action anyway, I have to tell you. That was a good little session with about an hour and a half, maybe, barely an hour and a half fishing. But I want to show you this lure. So, now get off your settee, you come over here. Why should I come over there and bring the camera around closer so you can see it? You get up and you come over here. I'm not going to show you otherwise. This is my red, smoking hot pike lure at the moment. I think it's going to get big perch as well. So this is the lure. It is, well, and has expired. The baffle tail at the back has been chopped right off. So it's finished, also pulling off from around the head here. It's called, now I was given these, or two of them, by Richard the Plasterer. So thanks to Richard the Plasterer, he said, try these, Graeme. They are really a really good pike lure. It's called a Capellan. If that means anything to you, it doesn't mean anything to me. Nothing else it says on the back, but it's a sort of, I've got these, I've got the good old sideboy and the shads there, and these are, and I've caught on these are what I call the new super solid shads. Well, they're not that new, I've had them a couple of years, I say anyway, but blue and white, 25 grams. Now, while we've got these here, keeping the camera frame at 25 grams, these are similar in size, given the tail has gone off of this one, you know, there, but it's a lot lighter. And I'll tell you the other thing is, I find the rubber or whatever it is in these is much softer, and I think that baffle tail at the back actually moves better. This one is so badly used that the head has been re-glued. I've actually tried to salvage it as much as possible. Now it's kaput, it's finished, it is no more. It is an ex-lure. But luckily, Richard the Plasterer had some more. So it was worth a drive over to get some more. He's got some of these different colours of sort of, they look more perchy, a sort of sheen, a green, iridescent sheen in the head. But these red and white ones, right there, I mean, my goodness, let's take one out, I'll show you the baffle tail. So this is the last one I used. As you can see, it's been absolutely, totally demolished. I did try super glue, I tried everything around the head to keep it and salvage it, because this one has got the baffle tail, but I'm afraid it's had so many pike, look, absolutely there. If I can get that in the camera frame, cut to ribbons. Got a nice little, you can still use this, look, I could throw this all away and still use that as a jig head and put some bait on there. The other thing I would mention is these hooks. Look, I don't even know if it's a micro barb or any barb on there at all. I'm going away from treble hooks, guys. I'm getting more towards these singles, because if you get hung up, in fact I hang up less than normal using these. If you're using something like I am, say 50 pound, 40, 30 pound braid, you can pull and the hook straightens up if you get in a snag, and you can actually pull the snag up and get it out, or you know, just open the hook up and then rebend it with a pair of forceps. And the hook seems to stay really sharp. So there's the lure. It comes in this little box. Just so you know, I found it fishes upside down like that with the hook up. So if you're going along the bottom, it bumps along the bottom and doesn't snag up. It doesn't seem to want to fish that way. It wants to fish that way. That's how I'm filming it anyway. Nice baffle tail, but look, it's very, very, very stretchy. It's very limp, but it's more the weight of that head. I just know that that's a light head. So I thought I'd just mention that to you. Now, rods I've been using, Yeah, the rods I've been using have been the white kanji and what was the other one? The old Frankenstein rod, Frank 2, made up from a snap cart rod at the top and a snap cart butt at the bottom, glued together with a gas tap on here as a rod butt, and really good. So go over to the Life of Mike channel, you'll see that, some good action on the pike. But I want even more action next time, so I'm going ultralights. Just going to get the other glasses, I'll tell you what they are. This one is a light one. It's got nice big rings. The Frank 2 had small rings. So when Mike was winding, I noticed the wide throw of the fixed ball reel, right, was giving him a sort of false. He said, I'll keep snagging the bottom. I don't think he was. It was bump, 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 bump. The rotation of the knuckle on the real bail arm here was giving it that little tweak on the small rod butt. So there you got a good rod butt ring there. Now, I've loaded these up. I don't know what they are. Shimano, whatever's. That one's got some 25-pound braid on. These are ultralight rods. Now this rod, I got in Cairns, Australia. Was it Jack Erskine's shop? Was that used to be there? Anyway, I was big game fishing over there and I went in the tackle shop and bought some different bits and pieces. It's called a Bass Pro Tawny Special IM6 Graphite. Oh my God. But it's a nice little rod, and when it goes right over, you've got a bit of beef here. Oh, it tells you casting weights there. Microscopic. 5'6". It comes categorised as light, and its lure size, it said the line is 4 to 10 pounds. Well, I've thrown that straight out the window because I've got a 25-pound braid on there. Okay, so that's that one. The other one, I know the tackle tarts are going to love this one. It's a 2-piece, $4.99 from Kmart in Florida. Used for catching pinfish for tarpon bait when Mike was younger. So this one has got to be 25, 27 years old. But I've used this, yes, look. It's not a super powerful rod, but I want super powerful line. I've got 40 pounds sidewinder braid on there. So we'll see how that goes. Keep an eye out for the film upcoming. I thought I'd just mention it to you. We don't sell the braid, you know, us and tackle I try to keep away from, but I just thought there are people out there that like it. So I'm using, I'm not even mentioning the name, a performance braid. Something caught my eye in this one though, before I threw it away. The line was bred in the harsh conditions of salt water and fine-tuned for the freshwater tournament applications. It's got every series, but it says cast like a rocket. Yes, digital Y something or other 6 Y8 braiding. Wait for this. Ultra quiet. Ultra quiet. Can the fish not hear it? Is that what it means? Or does it mean when you wind it, it doesn't grind through the rings? You know, you hear braid go through the rings. So that's that one. It says it's very small diameter for longer casting, but it does say the quietest braided fishing line ever produced. Whatever. It's fishing line. Sidewinder silk premium braid, strong as steel, smooth as silk. Hyper. Oh, I love it. You tackle task, get ready. You're going to lay down after this one. Hyper PE braided fibres, zero stretch, Teflon coated formula, super tight, 8 micro weave construction. I've used this stuff before, it's actually quite good. It's called Sidewinder Silk Premium Braid. I've just put it on this reel because I've got a spare. Obviously, I haven't put whatever this comes in with 250 yards. I've used it for boat fishing, that's what I use it for. But it's going on the reel because that's what I've been catching fish on. So, that's what I've got. If you want to track those lures down, I find them very, very, very good for pike at the moment. And there's another coloured one there that Richard the Plaster gave me. I have yet to use that, but I've got a feeling that may be good for perch or maybe pike in brighter conditions. Moving on. I've got possibly the world's biggest ever book. No, it's not the Bible, it's a sort of fisherman's Bible. You should have been here yesterday. It's entitled by Dr. Phil Williams. I've known Phil Williams for many years. It is a monumental tome of sea fishing information. Now I know some of you guys, older guys, probably would like to look through something like this, but it's not like, I can't even open it, a sort of shop bought one. You have to go online. It's actually just a DVD disc taped to the back of this one. 780 pages that Phil's written in here. It covers loads and loads and loads of stuff. to do with sea fishing, the sea fishing of yesteryear, and I've got to be honest, there's so much stuff in there, you know, you could take forever to read through it, but a lot of interesting stuff in here, everything from sharks, cod. I mean, Phil had some tremendous cod. He was the original, I'm going to call it, pioneer of small boat fishing, publishing articles. Obviously people had small boats years ago, there were people with coracles, weren't there? But Phil was the one that was responsible for publicising small boat fishing, long before I ever had a small boat. And believe it or not, Phil actually got me into the filming, because we both knew each other as journalists, writing for both, you know, magazines and stuff. I did more all-round fishing, Phil did a lot of sea fishing. He had a monumental number of different species he's caught, that he's racked up. So if you want to get a good read, you can, I've got to read this because this is what Phil says, how he's made it. You can't go out and buy this, but the information is, it's just so much work that Phil's put in there, it's beyond belief almost. I'll read it so you know what it is. Because this is intended as being a historical archive document, I've assembled and released the project in a series of formats which between them will hopefully stand the test of time. It's one thing making a copy available for research at the British Library, so that's one of the series where you can get. Quite another expecting all but the most dedicated angling historians to actually discover this without first being guided to its presence. So having known Phil well, and he, you know, he's helped me out with the computer stuff as well, and just general chit chat on fishing and cameras as well, I feel I'm doing the guided to presence bit. He's put, similarly problematic is putting it out in electronic format as a free download ebook, which he has also done. A fully illustrated version is available on his website, www.fishingfilmsandfacts.co.uk. Unfortunately, this will be time restricted by how long I remain live paying the site's hosting fees, for which reason I have placed fully illustrated bound, printed and electronic copies with Angling Heritage and the Angling Trust, with non-illustrated electronic versions available in both Kindle and Smashwords. So that tells you all about it. You know, I mean, I can't tell you, it goes way, way, way back in there. Around page 327 is particularly interesting, and thank you for those very kind words, Phil. So I just thought I'd mention that, because if you're into sea fishing, yes, we all took too many fish years ago, and it's sort of acknowledged, isn't it, nowadays, that you're not going to go around hanging loads of fish up, and I've got racks of fish hanging up there, trust me, from big game fishing, but I just find it interesting. So there's the book. It is a lump of a book. If you've got time to pass, see if you can find that electronic version and have a look at it, and you can just drop in and out of it. I just thought it was something of interest for everybody. Now then, before I go and have a lie down after doing all this, we saw something called a black pheasant. Now, we know it's a pheasant and we know it's black, but we called it a black pheasant. I've never seen one before in my life. They are quite rare in the UK, not totally unusual. Have you guys ever seen a black pheasant? So, the wife, we've seen it several times. Every time I go out, it runs across the road and I think, oh my God, I'm going to get a mashed up picture of pheasant. I just wanted to get a picture of a black pheasant. So, earlier this morning, literally hot off the press, there's a lot of sort of mist and fog around. Wifey goes, get down quick, that black pheasant's outside. I go outside, doesn't film great, you'll see it doesn't film great because it's like all the particles are there from the fog, the moisture droplets, so the camera doesn't really know what it's focusing at. But it was indeed a black pheasant. I got closer and closer to it. I used all the stealthy fishing tactics I could, including, yes, my thermal imaging underpants. I crawled along with a camera between my teeth, eventually got close enough to it and obviously spooked it. But at least you get to see a fleeting glimpse of the rare, totally awesome black pheasant. Have you guys seen them? Also in one of the films I mentioned about the huge number of freshwater mussels And look at this lot. One guy on the comments page said it's a mink. Another one said it's an otter, so hopefully we'll find out, because I've got a trail cam and I'm going to put it up. It's a windy one. I'm going to put it up here. Michael said you don't want to get too close because he gets what he calls too hot. So let's get this clamped up and set on. I've got it jammed with a stick at the back so it's tipped down just a little bit. That's on. I've got, I think, 8 seconds. I haven't done a test on it, but it's pointing straight towards where we think the creature is coming. Let's find out. I reckon probably at dawn, even tomorrow or the next day. Well, that's it, people. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. A mishmash. There'll be another big full one up. If I can get this up on a Wednesday, I'll get a good fishing one up for Friday. There's still stuff, fishy stuff in there. I know a lot of you guys like to sit down, relax and have a good view. Fingers crossed we get some fish in the next one. I can't wait to use these little light rods. We're going to get a film hopefully for you. Big fish. See you in the next one. That's a big book, Phil. Really big.